This black dot right here is a point. It is a 0D object, meaning it has no dimensions. You cannot measure it. But now let's make another point. We connect the 2 points with a line. That line can be measured, and when you extend this at both ends to infinity, we get the first dimension, and the line is a 1D object. Now, we copy and paste the line in a parallel position to the original line. Connect the two ends of the lines, and we get a four-sided shape, or a quadrilateral. Now, if you expand the shape indefinitely, in the directions of the sides, you get a flat plane, which is a two-dimensional space. Unlike the line, which can only be measured by its length, the shape can also be measured by its width. You can now make two measurements, hence 2D. Now, if you copy the shape, which we will assume to be a rectangle, and bring the clone to a parallel position, relative to the original, then connect their respective edges, we get a rectangular prism, or a cuboid. Again with the expansion, and we get what is commonly referred to as three-dimensional space. Now unlike the rectangle, the cuboid gains an additional measurement, which is its width. The world that we live in is nominally a three-dimensional world. Therefore, the human body, and by extension the human mind is also in 3D. Because of evolution, our brain has been heavily adapted to perceiving the three-dimensional world, which means that you cannot actually feel the dimensions higher than the third. This issue is well explained in Flatland, a book in which Edwin Abbott described a two-dimensional world, where the people are flat shapes like squares and triangles. The main character, a square, dreams of visiting the one-dimensional world, the Lineland, where the people are straight lines. He tried, and failed to convince the king of Lineland that there exists a second dimension, for the king sees him as a collection of points on a straight line. In another bedtime adventure, the square found himself in the three-dimensional world, where he met a sphere, which tried to convince him of the existence of a third dimension. But in the square's perspective, the sphere is just a straight line, so his two-dimensional brain had a little trouble comprehending this. The sphere then proceeded to move up and down, through the two-dimensional plane, which was perceived by the square as a line changing its length. It also described the relative position of things inside the square's home, which was something that the square knew of but could not imagine all of them at once, since his vision was not in two dimensions. So the sphere took the square on an adventure to Spaceland, which was the realm of three-dimensional beings. The square now believes in the third dimension, and possibly higher dimensions as well. But the sphere dismissed the idea and sent the square back to Flatland, where he was imprisoned for spreading the supposed falsehood that was the third dimension. As three-dimensional creatures, we can only see things in 2D. This clip looks 3D, but that's still a 2D image produced by your brain, using information relayed from your eyes. If we apply this principle to a four-dimensional creature, it will look at you as a 3D image, meaning that not only will it see the part of you that is closer, but any part of your body, the internal organs, the back and the bones. This is similar to how the sphere confused the square by describing the insides of two-dimensional people, which of course the square could not see. In a reversed manner, if you ask the four-dimensional guy to move through the third dimension, your 2D perception of him will appear to change. The fourth dimension comprises an infinite number of 3D spaces, and when the 4D guy moves out of your 3D space, it will look as if the 4D person disappeared completely, which is actually not true. This takes us back to when the sphere moved through the square's plane into another plane. To the square, the sphere seemed to have vanished. Just like the four-dimensional space, the 3D space contains an infinite number of 2D planes. If our universe is counted as one 3D space, then perhaps the entire fourth dimension can be thought of as containing an infinite number of parallel universes. This is known as the multiverse theory, and since there are an infinite amount of parallel universes, anything will be true in at least one parallel universe. If you believe in the multiverse theory, you also believe that in at least one parallel universe, you do not believe in it, and maybe in the universe I won't be making this video. In a 1957 interpretation, Hugh Everett suggested that for every quantum event, different universes are created corresponding to each of the possible outcomes of that quantum event. For example, when you throw a dice, 5 new parallel realities are created for the 5 outcomes that you do not see. But will that work backwards? Suppose that you happen to invent a time machine, and for whatever reason you use that machine to kill your grandfather, before he had your father. But since your father wouldn't have been born, there would be no you, and your grandfather is still alive. Which means that your father, and by extension, you, will come into existence, and you will once again be killing your grandfather. This is known as the grandfather paradox, which describes a logical contradiction that arises from the action of time traveling. At least if we accept that this universe is the one and only. One interpretation is that you did not actually go to the past, but either went to a parallel reality, or created one. The Gramps that you killed belonged to that other reality, not yours. This will not lead to a contradiction. So, is it safe to conclude that the fourth dimension is just time all along? Einstein would agree, but his theory does not require the involvement of the so-called multiverse. A given point in the universe not only has 3 coordinates but also a fourth, the time coordinate. This is a foundation of what Einstein called space-time, which is the amalgamation of time and space as interdependent entities. Although Einstein's theory has managed to explain phenomena that previous theories could not, relativity is not really the best tool for finding a solution to the grandfather paradox, or the time travel question in general. Regardless of the way we approach the fourth dimension, it is likely that four-dimensional creatures will possess abilities so epic, we won't be able to comprehend them. If you remember Flatland, the sphere could see what was inside the square, but the square could not, since the vision he had was one-dimensional, which could not capture his two-dimensional form. To the square, the sphere was practically a god. What if the god of our universe had actually been a four-dimensional entity all along? And why should that entity be limited to 4 dimensions? Like what happened to the square, it would be a challenge to convince other three-dimensional creatures of the existence of a fourth dimension, let alone a four-dimensional god. You cannot test that with three-dimensional equipment. This god entity may have already revealed itself, but it's hard, if not impossible to pinpoint exactly with my three-dimensional brain. I wonder how the square communicated with the sphere, since it is possible that his two-dimensional senses were unsuited for receiving the sphere's signals. Therefore, we may pick up signs of a four-dimensional creature, but if it tries to communicate, would we be able to hear? If you think you heard something, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.